Welcome back into the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Whalegum, one of the co-hosts from here live on the show floor at Business Objects User Conference 2013. Well, we're delighted to have back in the studio Donald MacCormick. It's a great guest. We always have fun and learn a lot from you. Thank you for coming back.
Good to be here.
And we've got your booth over there on the show floor.
Yep.
So lots of stuff to talk about. I think today was an interesting keynote from SAP as they move on this analytics journey. Business Objects still very much a part of it, but we're hearing a lot more about analytics. We heard about dark data, we've got big data, and I think our Vice Chairman Paul Phipps said something interesting. He's like, unstructured data, whatever you want, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
Well, what's the kind of Antivia take on this big data thing?
Our take is interesting because we're sort of at almost at the other end of the spectrum from the keynote. All these different sorts of data. I mean, everybody's right. Big data volumes are growing. We've heard that for years and years. There are also different sorts of data, the social media data, all the sort of, and as Christian was saying, all the sensor data. There's a huge amount of data. So you need to tame that somehow, and you need to. There's a lot of valuable information in there. But once you've done that, once you've got that valuable information, got those insights, then you need to move it and spread it through the organization, because the information really becomes some information. Again, as Christian said in the keynote, if you can do it all essentially machine-based, so he was talking about the game where the battleship explodes on the screen,
right,
and there's no human intervention where you get the offer and send it back.
Right.
But if in cases where people have to execute on the understanding on the data, you have to get it in their hands in order for them to do that. And actually the number of analysts who are working on data estimates would range between 1% and 10% of the organization. We're focused on how you get that and take it from the 90 to 99% of the organization who are, they're not the data geeks. Mm-hmm. They're the guys who depend on the data to run their business and make better decisions. And it's that transition between sort of getting it out of the ground and refining it to getting it into the hands in a way that people can use it. So tools like Lumira, they're fantastic for the guys who are really into the data, but they're not really appropriate for the people who have got everyday jobs in operations or customers or suppliers. You're not going to throw data at them through Lumira. You're going to have more structured interfaces that they can just get the data that they need to underpin the decisions they're making. And we operate, in sort of the dashboard world, we operate at that, making data simple to consume. I got this new phrase, it sounds like a station in Wales, it's Gaiwin Gogo, and it stands for...
I was going to ask you about that.
It stands for get in, get what you need, get out, and get on. And that's what end users want from their data. They want the data that supports their decisions, but they don't want to think about it any more than they absolutely need to because they've got a job to do. And for us, interactive dashboarding is exactly the way, and particularly on mobile devices, is the way that people want to consume that data.
So, I think I've called you in the past the dashboarding guru because you've just been in this arena for so long. What is the near-term future for dashboarding? What's the long-term? I mean, will there always be a big need? I mean, in SAP's future, is there?
I actually think that the long-term future of end-user business intelligence is dashboards. Mm-hmm. And
why is that?
The reason for that is because everywhere you look, so people talk a lot about the consumerization of IT, mm-hmm, and there's some odd stuff. Gamification is a little strange, I think, sort of. But one of the places where I think consumerization is absolutely going to take hold is the way in which, if you think about the way in which we consume information in our personal lives. Mm-hmm. And the best example for me is a weather site. So I go to the BBC weather site. Mm-hmm. Now think about what that's doing. That's taking an amount of data that makes business data look small. I mean, the meteorological data, they have huge amounts of data, huge processing power, huge predictive algorithms. This is a big data predictive problem. Mm-hmm. And how is it delivered to me? It's delivered to me in a totally simple, no training required user interface that I just go in, get what I need, get out, and get on. And
yeah, but where you live, it's gray every day, so
yeah, no,
it's not hard to do that.
Yeah, but our weather is like 50 shades of gray.
That's true.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But it's important which gray it's going to be today.
Right,
so whether it's going to rain, whether you need your umbrella and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you guys over here, so it's just sunny all the time. Yeah. But the point is that those sort of interfaces that package up huge amounts of data that really sort of deep analytics has been performed on, but can then inform what I need to do. I don't spend like 15 seconds a day in it, but I'm taking advantage of all this analytic work that people have done. Or you look at any iPad app that's connected to the internet, they're easy to use. You don't get training manuals for iPad apps. but say a stock quote application or my bank account application or train timetables and websites, these interfaces are how people expect to consume information. Someone has thought about the task at hand, they've got an interface, they've packaged it so that it's easy for the end consumer to use, and the complexity is being taken out of it because you know what the task is.
Right.
In the weather, I know I want to see an overview, then I want to drill to an hourly forecast, and I might want to see what rainfall is going to happen. So because I know that, I can have like these big button interfaces that say rainfall, hourly, so I can just use it. I don't have to think about it. And so I think that the demand from end users saying, well, if I get information, really sophisticated information delivered to me like that in my everyday life, why can't it be that easy? What I expect on my iPad app is my sales information app, and I should just be able to come in and all the things that as a sales manager I need, pipeline, how my guys are doing, how products are doing, what areas I ought to look at, they should just come to the surface. And dashboards have always been very good at exposing the overview so you can at a glance see what's going on.
Sure.
But when you're taking it into this world, and again the weather site's a great example, you have to have interactivity. People say, well, I want to drill into that. I want to see how that marks out over time. I want to see how that's happening in that region. And so I think that these interactive dashboards that are thought through and present information simply and easily to end users, to customers, to suppliers, are the future of this end user BI, which is distinct from the analysts. The analysts,
Right, so you're segmenting, you're saying there's a home for Lumira.
absolutely.
But there's a greater need, there's a greater audience?
They go hand in hand, because what happens is that you use the analysts use Lumira to find out interesting things about the business. Like the meteorologists use these complex, well, I don't know what they do, to work out what's going to happen. They're forever refining their forecasting methods. And then they package that up, all that into something that the rest of us can consume.
Right.
And it's all these great insights that come, like for example, the insight might come about, so this is how you should drive around if you're delivering, or this is how you should stock your store. Well, then that transforms into a dashboard in the store manager's hand saying, these are the things you need to know about your store. A fantastic example of this, we've got a webinar on our website, and it was on Sapphire as well as FedEx office. They were drowning in, their store managers, 1,800 of them, drowning in reports. They were spending 4 hours a week, just cutting and pasting bits out of a report to get the view that they want. They replaced it with a single dashboard for all 1,800 of them get. They're now all on the same page to do with data, and they just come in and say, oh, that's how I'm doing. Oh, I need to, and it does great things like it tells them how much they'd have to increase their average sale to make their targets at the end of the month. It's really it's packaged up, actionable information that is because these guys are running a store. They're not, they're only interested in data to the extent that it helps them to do that. And so the analysts are interested in data, and the end users are interested in being driven by data, and there's a real, you can't have one without the other, because if you just do the analysis, you never get it into the hands of the people who want to use it. If you don't have the analysis, you don't know what to put into people's hands, so they both work incredibly well together. It's just two different, and people say, well, sometimes I'm an analyst and sometimes an end user. The important thing is the task at hand, the role. Are you thinking about data, or are you thinking about driving the business? And I think that really clearly separates how we should be delivering information to people.
The self-service BI you hear a lot, and this conversation kind of is leading there a little bit, but other than people using their own Excel spreadsheets as their BI tool, is there a lot of self-service BI actually going on today?
I think that, again, self-service BI and the self-service tools, and Lumira is a great example, and they are suitable for the analysts. They are less suitable for end users, and inevitably there's a gray area, and then they are, in my view, completely unsuitable for, say, a consumer customer. I go to my bank. If the web page that they present my information to me on, it would be madness to say, I tell you what, we'll dump all your data into Lumira and you just have a go at it, right? It makes no sense.
Right.
But for the analyst at this end, it makes total sense. And so I think what we've got to do is the problem we've had for years is that we have sort of abdicated responsibility, because there's this issue that end users have this great demand for information, and they're the classic reporting backlog. So they get a report, it's a bit too static, so they ask for another one, then they keep asking, and lots of people ask, and so there's a reporting backlog builds up, and everyone's frustrated. The BI guys can't deliver, the end users don't get what they need. And time and again we come to the decision, well, what's the best way to do this? I know, we'll get the end users to do it for themselves. we've tried it with ad hoc reporting, with self-service reporting, with data discovery. It's never worked. And that, again, it comes back to what we're saying about dashboard. I think a well-designed, interactive dashboard allows the end user to answer the first question, second drill, third pivot, and get a little more, is the answer. But you have to think about it. You can't just say, we're just throwing the data at you and you do it for yourself.
Right.
So I think we have to redefine what we mean by self-service. Everybody needs to self-serve their data. It's just in what form. I mean, I would argue that as the BBC weather site, I'm self-serving weather data, but the amount of processing that's happened beforehand and architecting to get that in my hands and we just have to be careful that we get the balance right so that people can actually use the information that's in front of them.
Right, that's a great point. The other thing, the whole discussion as I was sitting there, and our whole discussion assumes that data is good.
Right.
And you heard about the one network of the truth and one. It reminds me of back in the 90s when I was at CIO Magazine and I wrote this article. I remember talking to people, we're going to get to one version of the truth of all our data. And I know Antivia doesn't necessarily focus exclusively on that, but in your estimation, are companies getting better? Is the data getting cleaner? Because we've got all these beautiful tools to do it, but if the data is bad, you just get more beautiful presentation of bad data.
You're absolutely, you have to be careful of the garbage in, garbage out sort of problem. And are we any better? I think probably on average we're worse off because we've got so much more data.
Yeah.
If data volumes had stayed still, we'd be getting better at it. But the amount of data that's going, and I think one of the things I think one of the things that the network of truth shows is that to give up on this idea of, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all our data and we're going to get in a well-formed centralized data warehouse, and then we'll go from there, because you never get there. In fact, years ago, I was at a data warehousing conference, and this guy came up to me, and I was talking to him, and he was so excited about his warehouse, and I think it was about 4 gigabytes big, so that's just how long ago it was.
Thumb drive.
But exactly, what used to be a big data warehouse, you can now carry around in your pocket.
Yeah.
And he was going, it's normalized, and it's this, and it's great, and it's that. And I said to him, so how many users have you got attached to this? And he looked at me, and he said with a certain amount of assurance that you shouldn't have, he said, adding users is phase 2. And you think, this is going to go nowhere. But I think we've got much more used to the idea that if you want to solve a problem, you get some data, it can be 80 or 90%, you don't need it for every user, there's an organic nature to it. We deliver something, and our job is to clean up behind ourselves. You're never going to get it perfect, so do something and iterate on it. And this whole idea of sort of data analysis, of the analysts and the end users talking to each other and sort of having that feedback loop helps that. But the idea of taming the data that we have, we just got to make the best use of what's coming in. And often you can get insights from 80 or 90% sort of fit, get them out, get them going, and then iterate in phase 2. Same with dashboarding. Sort of, I've seen so many projects say, well, this is exactly what they want, but it's going to take us a year to deliver it. Well, if you delivered 80% of it in 6 weeks, wouldn't that be better? Oh no, the end users want all of this. No, tell them they can have 80% in 6 weeks and we'll go from there. Because the truth is that they say that end users don't know what they want until they see it. But in fact, typically they don't know what they want until they use it. There's no point in delivering the perfect thing because it'll turn out it won't be what they want. So get started. And Miko, I know Miko's not here this year, but in her dashboard formula, she talks a lot about this. Get the users involved, deliver something and iterate on it, because that's the way in which you discover what it is that people need. And so it's not about having perfect data and perfect, it is this sort of network where you're saying, well, let's grab this from here and this from there, and we'll get something going, and it's an ongoing process that's never finished, and sort of hopefully adds value as it goes.
Yep. Well, thanks again for coming in. It was great to talk with you as
No
always.
problem.
Stop by the booth. Donald will be over there signing autographs here later today. And
right.
We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Tom.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more interviews live from SBOUC 2013. And thank you very much for watching.